count. We have as our first keynote speaker Nina Sunday. Now, Nina has a Bachelor of Arts, majoring in English Lit and History, and a Diploma of Education from Queensland University. And yes, she started her career, like you, like many of you, as a teacher, but of English and History at Caloundra High School and then in New South Wales School. So there's quite a lot of shared background there. But 20 years ago, she founded Brain Power Training, now one of the country's top 40 national training companies. And she leads a team of multiple facilitators delivering essential business skills such as time management, customer service, business writing, leadership, and so on and so on and so forth. Last year, Nina was awarded her CSP, or Certified Speaking Professional, which is the highest designation from the National Speakers Association of Australia. And today, Nina will discuss how strengthening client relations in schools is not an invitation to the parents to rule. Quite the opposite, in fact. She'll give you some useful techniques for positive communication that not only keeps parents happy, but can set the school apart in a competitive marketplace. So, ladies and gentlemen, please give a warm welcome to Nina Sunday.
Thank you very much, Barbara. And thank you, and welcome back. How was your Australia Day? I found out the name of the swagman in Waltzing Matilda. Do you know his name? Andy. Andy sang, and he waited while his billy boiled. Okay, you know what is pretty weird about customer service? The more clients raise the bar and then you raise the bar to match, it's an ongoing vicious cycle, you might say, the more expectations people have. So that is the paradox of customer service, is that as you raise the bar supplying service, your clients, your customers, your guests expect even more. So if I asked you, can you think of a time, can you recall of a time when you were on the receiving end as a customer of poor customer service? Could you think of one or two examples? Yeah, who could? Conversely, if I asked you, can you recall a time when you experienced remarkable customer service? Can you also think of a couple of examples? Is that as many people? Yeah, so we are both on the receiving end of both types of service. And in a sense, today, preparing for today, like I deliver customer service, it's probably one of our flagship courses, and in order to get under the surface of what is good customer service, because I always assumed as a business owner, I've been in business now for 20 years, I give pretty good customer service, and I kind of was fairly smug and even complacent about our customer service. But in order to develop a program, I was invited by a client to develop a program on customer service. Being the thorough researcher that I am, I became an assessor of the International Customer Service Standards. Now, most people in the working world aren't even aware that there are customer service standards, so I can't imagine, would any of you be aware of that there are customer service standards? Anybody here? But in order to raise the bar in our own business, to see what are the attributes of world-class best practice, it helped us to understand that things like keeping a register not of customer complaints, but customer compliments is so important for team morale, and to acknowledge and to recognise when people do a good job is an attribute of world-class customer service. So how does that make you feel if you are acknowledged for a good job? Does that make you feel great? You know, one of the things that we learn in world-class customer service is that when somebody does a good job, don't just tell somebody else. Not only tell them, but tell them in front of others, in front of a group. So I'm wondering, does that happen now in this organisation? I'm wondering. So today isn't about going through all the steps of world-class best practice. We're going to have some fun. So you're probably wondering why we've got some pens and tissues. By the way, the squeeze balls are yours to keep. In fact, anybody that understands there's an aspect of learning styles that one description or one model of learning styles is visual, auditory, kinesthetic. And some people who are kinesthetics love to squeeze balls and actually learn better and think better if they've got something to fiddle with or something to squeeze. So that's yours to keep. The pen and the tissues, please keep the tissues clean for the little exercise that we're going to do shortly. Because one of the research studies that I came across recently is keeping me smiling as I drive, keeping me smiling as I'm in the shower. In fact, sometimes I'm smiling for no reason at all. So we're going to explore the reason why. Also, by the end of today, I'm hoping that you'll come across, look, this is just a 60-minute broad brush overview of customer service. And by the end of the day, I'm hoping you'll pick up on at least one thought, one idea that might actually change the way you do things, that inspires you. Because I know that when I came back from a break and ready for the next term, I kind of had all these fresh ideas about what I was going to do differently. Who's got that? Who's got in their head, I had this problem last year with that particular group or that particular student. I might try that this term. Has anyone got little fresh ideas like that? And then the term goes on and we kind of get into the daily grind. But nothing like the start of term to get that sense of renewal. And so today is about harnessing the fresh energy so you move into the term with some new ideas and some new inspiration. So we're going to have some fun as well and cover a little bit of the famous research studies in customer service. But the main quandary I had was teachers. Do they really need customer service training? I mean, isn't it enough to just be a good teacher? Has anyone got that thought crossing their mind? Well, let me say this. There are a lot of trends in the world right now. You're probably aware, as I am, of the completely evolving landscape of business and the world, and I'm hearing about Scalaborate and the fact that you've got a fully equipped IT department. I mean, how lucky are you, how lucky are your students, and you're embracing the digital revolution. That is fantastic. And you may not have heard that in marketing it's no longer a mass media world. What are the companies that are struggling? Kodak saw themselves as photograph, film, and they've actually missed the digital revolution. They're Apple and other organisations are way ahead of Kodak, and they should have been there, shouldn't they? They should have been leaders in digital imaging, but they're not. They're a little bit behind. That's another company that is missing the boat. The Yellow Pages. Who opens up a book of Yellow Pages now? Yeah? Probably for local services, would that be right? But would the majority of you actually, if you're looking for a painter in Croydon, wouldn't you just go, painters, Croydon? Look up Google? Yeah. Yellow Pages still thinks that people just go on the net to browse, they're not really buying. So Yellow Pages has missed the digital revolution. So it's a well-known fact that they're losing market share every year. What are the trends in teaching? Well, you've got an decelerating economy. GFC, I believe, hit schools quite a bit, especially independent schools. Birth rate, fertility rate, how's that going? It's actually started to creep up again. It was 1.9, now it's crept up to 2.1, so we're finally back at replacement, but we certainly haven't got a baby boom. And there's a thing in marketing called a SWOT analysis. Who's heard of that phrase, SWOT? Maybe you teach it in economics. Big time?
I just said business studies.
Yeah, business studies, very good. So strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, threats. So I'm sure you've got a lot of strengths and you know what they are. And each one of you is a strength of the school. We're going to talk about what could be weaknesses that could impact on reputation, enrolments, etc. We're going to look at, and we're just now really just discussing threats. Threats are the fact that you do have competition, do you not? When a parent comes to a school, does the parent always come with the child when they're thinking about sending their child to this school, or do they usually just come on their own, or varies? Bit of both? Do they only come to this school, or do they tend to visit the one or two other schools that they can choose? So they tend to visit one or two other schools. So you are in a competitive marketplace. The other thing, the reason, when I did a bit more research on the reason there is a trend towards customer service training in schools and for school teachers, is that customer service training will equip you with tools to deal with aggressive parents. Have you ever had an aggressive parent speak to you? It will teach you, and I'm actually going to give you a really good verbal template that we teach in business communication, we teach in leadership, we teach in customer service, we teach in negotiation. And this template I now use with colleagues, clients and family, that creates a buffer. So when they have an unreasonable request, I have a really good way to say it. Have you seen that sign, the definition of diplomacy? How to tell someone to go to hell so nicely they look forward to the trip. That's what we're going to do. So that's on the back page of our handouts. Now let's have a look at our handouts. And I hope you've got a pen handy. And as I say, keep the tissues clean for a little exercise we're going to do shortly. Who is your customer? So this is a little bit of an interactive experience. There are 3 lines at each end of the triangle. Could you please pop into those 3 lines who you think are your 3 main customer or client groups, please? And usually the first 2 come easily. Yes, everybody. Oh yes, I'm sorry I didn't make verbal reference to. I'm aware that actually there's about 130 teachers and about 70 admin and maintenance staff. So believe me, my point is going to be about that as well. Yes? Any handouts? Oh, certainly there's some up here. There we go. 3? Is it just 3? Or more? Here we go. Could you just take that back to the back row? Thank you. So, first customer group. Could I have someone call it out, please? Students, absolutely. Second, parents. And the third? Colleagues. Let's call them colleagues. So thank you for pointing out that there were non-teaching staff in the room, and this is my next point. The first tenet of customer service is that you have both internal and external clients. Or I should say it the other way round. And there's a little red line through the silo effect there. The worst thing that can happen in any enterprise is to have an us and them mentality between groups. And the tenet of customer service is if you're not serving someone directly front line, you are serving someone who is. So just be aware that if you're really polite and friendly to an external client and then bark orders at your colleague or even a subordinate, someone, your direct report, that is poor customer service with your internal colleagues. So it's just as important to be friendly and polite and courteous to your colleagues as it is to your external clients. So you know what the silo effect is? Do I need to explain it? Silo effect is that us and them mentality. It's that people are in their own little groups, and it's kind of even complaining about others. One of the no-nos of customer service is having negative nicknames for people, and especially our clients. Oh yes, that's Mrs. Ask a Lot of Questions. We all do it a little bit, but just be aware that is a no-no, because we kind of then diminish their humanity, their needs, and it can come across then as prickly, impatient answers. What business are you in? So I was talking earlier about some of the organisations that have missed the digital revolution. Just going back a century, in America, when the aeroplane was invented, a major form of transport was train lines, and we had the Santa Fe Railroad and various railroads. They actually missed the boat with air transport. Well, that's a mixed metaphor, isn't it? They saw themselves as train companies, not as transport companies, and they didn't get into airlines. They actually, some of them went out of business. So we're seeing that again with the digital revolution. So what business are you in? Are we in the, I can't really see the red dot, but that top left quadrant. Are we a school? Is that what we are? We're a school, an institution? Are we about qualifications, getting our students through exams and getting a great HSC mark? Or is it more? So I'd like you please now, just get your genius juices flowing and put in fill in the first 3 boxes, leaving 1 box blank, because I'm going to ask you a question about, and here's an example. If the knowledge curve is from data, we extract information, from information we get knowledge, and from knowledge we get wisdom, I want you to similarly go up the curve. So if we're a school, above a school we are what? And above that we are what? And then I'm going to challenge you for the 4th one. So if you understand the question, what business are you in? And put in 3 keywords in 3 of those boxes, leaving the 4th one blank for now. And probably the first one is school, and then above that is what, and above that is what? What business are you in? We're in the school business. Ah, you never thought of it as a business. Do suppliers to the school send the finance office invoices? Yes. Do you get paid a salary? Do you charge your clients for the service you provide? Do you think you're a business? Yes. So could I have just 1 or 2 examples of the words that you, the 3 words, the three layers? Yes? Someone, an example of their 3 key words? Yes, please.
Teaching, supporting, and innovating.
Innovating?
Yes.
Yay! I love it. I love it. If today you can walk away understanding that without innovation, you're stagnating, right? One of the rules of marketing is if you're a business, a small business, old business, big business, if you're doing business today the same way you did business 5 years ago, you are going out of business. I was taught that in like my 2nd year of being a small business when I had like 1 part-time employee. That I've always remembered that, and I'm wondering if that's true with teaching. Yeah, absolutely. When I hear about Scalaborate, I go, wow, you're really ahead of the curve, but you've got to stay ahead of the curve to actually keep up. Isn't that right? Yeah. Thank you. That's really nice. Could I have someone else's 3 key words? Someone? Yes?
Community, career and future.
Oh, I like that. These are all big picture words, big picture words. One more set of 3. Thank you.
Inspire, develop and create.
I love it. I love it. I just want to ask you a quick question. Can anybody recall that famous educator of the 60s, 70s whose catchphrase was, "Why is it so?" Who was that? Yeah, I think you can still catch some archival image on ABC website. Great stuff. I was alive then, and I enjoyed watching him. Why is it so? One of the key word I'd like you to put in as the 4th box is curiosity. Curiosity. If your students don't leave school with curiosity intact, the sense of lifelong learning, that they want to find out stuff, if they've just got a good grade in HSC, surely you need more than just that great grade, that certificate. Would that be a fair comment? So in order for your students to walk out with curiosity, what must you have as teachers? A similar curiosity. So I just wanted to, this is the day that we kind of renew our enthusiasm and go, right, what's our big vision? Because let's look at the next little point. Point number 3, WII-FM. What does that stand for? Is that a radio station? WII sounds like an American radio station. WII-FM. Anyone know what that acronym stands for? What's in it for me? My goal today is to help you remember that the reason you're working in this career is so you can love what you do and love getting out of bed each day and go, great, I get to go to school. I get to go to work. So there's our little heart there. I want to tell you a story. I've just been reading Seth Godin's book, Linchpin. Has anybody heard of the book, Linchpin? It is a marketing book, but it's not really. It's really about... we'll come back to that. Oh, yes. Is that how you feel sometimes? Certainly as you get further into term. Today is our opportunity to discuss the art of teaching. What Seth says, and it's really a book that anybody can read. Seth Godin wrote The Purple Cow, Permission Marketing, so he's a marketing expert, and I'm an avid reader. And I read this over the break, and it reminded me why I do what I do. It is an art being up at the front of the room doing this. It is an art you being in front of your room, your boss of your class, and you are an artist with your students. Is that correct? It certainly is. And if you forget that, remind yourself. Today's about reminding yourself that you love the connection you get with the students that you connect with, that you resonate with. Now, we can't resonate with every single one in the school, but can anyone remember one student at least that the seed of an idea that you placed in their head, you saw grow and they blossomed as a human being because of something you did or said? Can anyone remember a moment or a student that happened with? Yeah? Yes? Is that a yes or a no? Yes. Because I certainly can, even from the couple of years that I was in the school system. It is about continuous improvement. It is about preparing something fresh for the class because you're excited to see how it's going to work out. I actually prepared a fresh talk for you because I knew my canned customer service 1 hour was not going to work with this particular group because you were coming in from a different angle. So I'm as curious to see how it pans out as well. And I hope at the end of the day, you're going to say that was fun. I'm enthusiastic about every group I get the opportunity to speak in front of. Are you enthusiastic? Do you remember the enthusiasm when you got your qualification and you were handed your first class? Can you remember that time? Yeah, we have to be reminded. I know, the daily grind, eh? It's a feeling thing. The goal of good service is that your customers will become advocates and tell everyone they know how wonderful you are. So I'm going to switch over now to the next page, page 6. I hope you don't mind, I've put things in one order, but organically as I'm speaking you kind of get a feel, oh, I might just do this in this order now. Is that okay if I change the order a little bit? Especially as sometimes time-wise we might want to jump to something at the end and then come back. I'd like you please now to spend a moment jotting into that little talk balloon, what do we want parents to think about us and say about us? Just write a short little phrase like, oh, I'm going to find it. That's the 150. Now, is there anyone called Mary in the room? Mary, could you read out what you wrote, please? Yeah, but did you write something in the balloon? Oh, okay. Is there another Mary who's a teacher? Is there a David in the room? What did you write, David?
I wrote, put my glasses on.
Okay.
That we inspired or switched on their student to the subject and she now feels confident and eager to learn.
Isn't that lovely, switching on a student? Is there a Jennifer in the room who wrote something in the thought balloon? Yeah?
Focus on a supportive environment that allows students to exceed their expectations.
Great. And one other person just to volunteer there what they wrote. Yes?
Professional, competent and expert in their field.
Professional, competent and expert in their field. Has anyone got anything about they listen to me, they really understand? Anything relating to, yes, could I hear that?
You go the extra mile for our daughter, you understand and provide timely feedback.
Provide timely feedback. Who else has got something around feedback and you spent time with me to explain the situation? Something along those lines? Anyone got something like that? Yes? Approachable. Ah. It seems to me that it's not just that they're good with the students. Who's paying the bill? Who's paying the fees? Do parents want to feel as if they can approach a student? Do they? Oh, okay. Thank you. Thank you for correcting me. Yes. Is it possible that parents in the past, for maybe teachers who are no longer here, no longer present, that teachers were not approachable? A certain teacher may not have been approachable. Yes. Is it acceptable in this day and age? No. Customer service means being approachable. And however, it's not about giving away the farm. It's not about saying yes to every request. Do parents sometimes have unreasonable requests? We're definitely going to empower you with a little tool for that. Now, let's go back to the with them. What's in it for me? The what in it for me is that you'll love coming to work, that you'll have a smile on your face, that you'll experience continuous improvement, that's the little infinity sign, and that there will be change. You want students to change and grow, do you not? That's a little icon for change. Now, I'm going to tell you a little bit about a book. Yeah? No, that's not it. That was funny, wasn't it? 12. There we go. Oh, 12. that should do it. Like playing the piano. There's a book called Moments of Truth. And it was written by Jan Carlson, who was CEO of Scandinavian Airlines. This book was published in 1989. And it was the story of how Jan Carlson turned the airline around with this concept of moments of truth. The idea of moments of truth is that every customer interaction or touch point should be one of quality, friendliness. And so he trained even cleaning staff, all staff, but cleaning staff included, to acknowledge people as they came in the airport terminal. So customers became raving fans. That's actually an Avis term, but the idea of customers as raving fans. But the moment of truth principle goes like this. With every customer touch point, that client is deciding whether to do business with you or whether to continue to do business with you. And the other version of whether to continue to do business with you is whether they enjoy doing business with you. Now there's a little, over the page number 7, is a little diagram that reflects school marketing. You work very hard to attract new students. Oh yeah, you might think that there's a list a mile long. But people can be deflected from that decision. And to have a waiting list is a great thing. But you cannot assume that the waiting list will automatically be there. It's a bit like local councils and government departments are getting customer service training because as taxpayers to a council, you are captive audience, are you not? But it is not acceptable to treat ratepayers as if they are a captive audience and have a like it or lump it attitude. Who's ever felt from their local council they got a bit of like it or lump it? That is changing. Maybe, I don't know about your council, but it is changing per se within government. In fact, another trend, aged care, I was involved with an aged care customer service video. They're getting rid of the hospital model and introducing the hospitality model. So this idea of like it or lump it, or, you have to accept, the limited choices that I deign to offer you, it's no longer acceptable. So in fact, if you give, if you give a student a makeup lesson, perhaps don't say, it'll be 10 o'clock Tuesday, like it or lump it, or a feeling to that effect, but maybe give them the perception of choice. Give them a choice of times. In fact, in the Royal Australian Air Force, following orders is not command and control. They have the perception of choice because they want their rank and file to become problem solvers. You can't be a problem solver if you're blindly following orders. So, you work hard to attract. Every interaction with a parent is affirming they made the right decision. So let's see how moments of truth might play out in the playground. Now, I would like 2 volunteers, please, and whoever volunteers will get, each of you will get a copy of my training DVD on customer service. You may or may not want it, but you can give it to somebody else. And all I need are 2 volunteers that actually know how to work with a tape measure. So who's handy? Come up and you get a little present. And give them a round of applause. Thank you. Now the reason I say someone that knows how to work with a tape measure, because, right, because your responsibility, this is OH&S here, your responsibility is to make sure you hold on to that firmly and not let it go suddenly, because it can actually hurt someone because it flies back, okay? So you're going to take it out to about, it's marked on the tape measure, to about 3 metres, or in imperial, that is about 10 feet. And you got it? Yep. Is that 10 feet?
It's 3
3 metres, perfect. There's the little star. Who's been to Disneyland? Right? Does a little story, can I just tell a little story while you're standing there doing that? I have a friend who has been to Disneyland several times and spent 3 consecutive days there. He loves it that much. And he told me that, you know, the cleaning staff, the janitorial staff, the average time span that they spend in that job is 1.5 days. It's a job for transients. They expect people to just, maybe it's backpackers, or maybe it's just people moving through, or maybe it's just a terrible job, I don't know, but it's 1.5 days. But they train people for 3 days, paid training to perform their job, and it's an average of 1.5 days. Why? Because Disneyland has the saying, meet and greet within 10 feet. So there's 10 feet. So here we go. Now, could I have your name, please? Ellen and Chris. Helen. Now, someone who's in trigonometry can tell me the name of this, what we're doing, but you're going to walk around in a circle, and I'm going to stand here, and let's get what 10 feet or 3 metres looks like. So you're any way you like. You're going to stay there. That's right. Right. Okay, so freeze. That's fantastic. So now I'm wondering if we could make this the MLC commitment, that when we see a parent come within our proximity, this is the proximity rule, of 10 feet, it's acknowledge. It's just be a waiver. In fact, there's a book I read some time back by Helen Gurley Brown. You remember Helen Gurley Brown was the editor of Cosmopolitan magazine, or was that it? Clio. What? Cosmopolitan. And I remember this little paragraph that she wrote. She said, be a waiver. In other words, you know, when you depart from friends and should I turn around and wave again? She said, it doesn't matter if they don't. They won't know. But if they do and you didn't, they will know that you weren't a waiver. So she said, she called people reading her book mouse burgers. Good mouse burgers are wavers. So be a waiver. It's like, oh, see you later, and then you turn and you make that final wave. Who is a waiver? Yeah, well, be a waiver. Okay, so this is the proximity rule at MLC. If we see a parent come within our sphere of influence, should we be a waiver? Yeah, should we acknowledge? Yeah. Thank you very much. Now, can you bring that back you know how to do that? Oh, good. That's why I said, give Helen and thank you very much. Yeah, thank you. Who rather likes the proximity rule? Would it work here? Now, of course, do you sometimes feel as if you're going to get snaffled? If I wave, they'll come and talk to me. Oh, just look at my shoelaces. Has anyone been to Japan? Right. Ah, well then you know what I mean. You walk into a restaurant or a shop, "Irasimasu, irasimasu, irasimasu." Who's heard that? Yeah. What are they saying in Japanese? What is it? What's the welcome to our establishment? It's kind of nice, isn't it? You kind of miss it when you come back to Australia because someone might acknowledge you, but not everybody does. So that's an extreme example. But acknowledgement. So the proximity rule, if you'd like to write it into that circle, is meet and greet within 10 feet. And the next part of the rule is within 5 feet, verbally acknowledge. Who's been to Luna Park lately? I was there yesterday, and I think they're getting the Disneyland training. Because I saw there were 2 cleaners walking around, and one mature woman especially, with the brush and broom, And I saw her say things to people. I think she was actually just a customer service representative masquerading as a cleaner, because she said to one little kid, "Hey, give us a high five." And then there was another group and she was just smiling and talking to them. There really wasn't that much to clean up around the place. Her job was guest relations. And by the way, the sign at Luna Park says guest relations. And there is another sign, and I didn't have time overnight because I was here at the crack of dawn to get it onto the PowerPoint from my phone, from the photo camera on my phone. But there's a little sign that has before and after, like grumpy face and a smile after. So I have all this kind of little cartoony artwork. So this is the smile experiment. Would everybody take their pen and their tissue? Now, the reason for the tissue is I want you to put, those who are willing to do this, and if you have any reason not to participate, that's fine. I want you to put the pen, we're going to put it in our lips and our teeth in a moment, and I thought maybe for hygiene you might want to put the tissue around it, because it's come straight out of the packet, but the packet has come from a factory, probably in China, so that's what I thought. And the tissues just come straight out of the box. And if you don't want to put anything in your mouth, that's fine too. But here is the experiment. It was published in Emotion scientific journal. There is actually a scientific journal called Emotion. And it comes from some original research in '88 by Fritz Strack. And then a Frenchman, I assume it's French, Soussignon, I'm seeing it with a French accent, was published 2002. And they were looking at, the reason for the research was really looking at people that don't have hands often have to use their mouth to write. And so this is really where the research came from, but they had some unusual conclusions. So those that wish to participate, just put the pen between your lips. And the question is, where, the corners of your mouth, which direction do they go? They go down, don't they? Okay, now take the pen and put it between your teeth. And the corners of your mouth, which direction do they go? Up. So the experiment went along these lines. They got a number of participants in the survey to look at cartoons and rate them for their funniness, and also look at be exposed to other information, and then to report on their memory of it. So they were doing two things: rating funniness and their recall of items. Did you know that people who, and they weren't told to smile, by the way, they were just told to hold the pen in their teeth, but it activated the smile muscles in their face. Did you know they rated those cartoons as funnier? And they had slightly better recall of the information they were exposed to than the people who had it between their lips, whose the corner of their mouths went down. Why is that so? Well, isn't that interesting? So remember I said at the start that I suddenly find myself smiling more as I drive, smiling more in the shower, and smiling more sometimes for no reason at all, because it's going to make me happier. So if you want to be happy, just smile more. You don't actually need a reason. Isn't that interesting? So, if you walk out of here today feeling more alive, feeling happier, feeling more positive, is that a good thing? Yes. Yes. Fantastic. Is one of those mine? No. Okay, here it is. I'm going to make sure I open up the floor to any questions you might have, but I'm going to, because I want to keep you to time. I'm going to fast forward to request ever come up? I'd like my daughter to go to another class. It would be, King's Cross Station. Everybody catching a different train. I mean, it would unbalance the classes. So here's the trick. How to say no without using the no word. Remember that definition of diplomacy earlier. You are the genie with the Aladdin's lamp, and you just wish you could. And the key here is to mirror their words and not say, I wish I could do that. It's, I wish I could move your daughter to another class. There's power in repeating their words. What's another unreasonable request that you've heard more than once? That's more of a generic request. That's unreasonable, you can't say yes to. Just another one? Oh, I'd like my daughter to be absent. All right, whatever. Okay. And do you have to say no to that? Yes, okay. All right. The other version of it is I know you would like your daughter to move to another class. It's just in the moment which one you feel works best. I kind of rotate between the two. I wish I could move your daughter to another class, because what does that demonstrate? The quality of? Empathy, absolutely. There's magic in the word but. But. What does the word but do? It negates everything that went before. It's beautiful in its simplicity. It works better than however. But you don't kind of dig it in. It's like but. It's a quiet but. And then you give them a neutral third-party reason, not, but my hands are tied. No, that's not very neutral. But a good reason. It would unbalance the numbers if she moved. They want to know what you can do. There's a little story about Winston Churchill. Winston Churchill was a landscape artist. Did you know that? And he did a landscape, and some visitor came to his studio and said, you know what, Winston? It would look better with a sheep in the foreground. He said, really? Went over with his pen, just kind of pretended. Yeah, it does. He didn't really put a sheep in there. He just acted as if. He kind of went in the direction of not, oh, no, it's my painting. I don't think there should be a sheep. He said no without using the no word. He just did it in action rather than in speech. So what would be one little thing you could do instead of moving the child? What would be a promise you could make? Perhaps you could say something along the lines of, but what I'll do is I'll observe her behaviour in class, and maybe we can get to the bottom of what is the real reason she wants to move. You can always buy time with that, but what I can do is, it's the can do that's important, but what I can do. So could you turn to a person next to you and say, but what I can do is, just say it, but what I can do. Thank you. Now I'm going to open up the floor to any questions you might have, and we've just got a couple of minutes. Any questions you might have? Yes?
Just ask you from your experience, what would be considered timely feedback? Like, what is it, a day? Is it 2 days? Like, you get an email from a parent or... Oh,
okay. I'm going to mention the under-promise, over-deliver rule, right? Sorry? Oh, yes, thank you for reminding me. The question is, what is timely feedback? And of course, instantaneous is what they want. In fact, before they ask the question. But the important thing is to create a buffer. So number one, you can say, I'd really like to go into, so say you see them in the classroom and they want to ask a question that requires a fairly detailed answer or even a little bit of research. So I'd really want to talk to you about that, but could we, say it's a face-to-face, could we do that later today or later this week? So you negotiate the time frame. Are you talking about maybe an email coming in?
Yeah, I'm just kind of thinking, because as a teacher, if you've got a 6-period day, you might not necessarily get the phone call or the email until later in the day.
Yes.
And the perception might be that you actually aren't, wanting to get back to me or you care about the issues. I'm just kind of trying to sort of work within the...
Well, one of the principles around emails is if you have a tricky email and you know you can't answer it that day or even the next day, send a little response saying, I've seen your email and can I get back to you in a few days on that? Just to acknowledge that you've seen it, because isn't it infuriating when you say to people, did you see my email? They say yes, and you go, oh, why?
24-hour rule is really good. You respond within 24 hours whether you got the answer or not.
That's
Which
it.
they know that you know, and that you give them a time frame. For some things you need to be on it very quickly, don't you? But other things like this change in class, you can say, I'll get back to you in a month after I've been watching her progress and talking to her other teachers.
Yes, absolutely. It's all about keeping clients in the loop. Now, have you ever been waiting on more information that then you can send a response to? It's very important that you let people know, look, that information hasn't come through yet, but just so you are aware, I am on top of that. By the way, who keeps a written to-do list? Right? Who keeps it up here in their heads? All right? Do you ever go to sleep at night thinking about all the little things you have to do and wake up in the morning? The people who have that mind churn, is what it's called, are not writing things down. They're not writing absolutely everything down. From time management, I can tell you that you must write absolutely everything down, every little task, unless it's a 2-minute task that you're going to do straight away. So even if it's a 2-minute task that you're going to do later, write it down. Otherwise, you're relying on memory, and memory will remind you upon going to sleep and upon awakening. It's maddening. I no longer have mind churn since I learnt that rule. Another question. One more question. Is anyone going to say, yeah, but, with the verbal template? Who feels that they might be able to use this template somehow? Yeah. Excellent. And I'll tell you something, often when I compose a first reply to an email, I remember the template and I use the template in the email. This is gold. All right, I'm going to leave you with a story, and I'm glad we're going to be right on time. That's excellent. It was in this book by Seth Godin. He talked about the experience of British Airways first-class flight attendants. And you can imagine, first class is expensive, and the executives who fly first class expect first-class treatment. Do you think they're always friendly, charming passengers? Sometimes they can be quite demanding and lacking in appreciation. And in fact, isn't it true that as teachers, sometimes you feel like the students and the parents don't appreciate you? No, exactly. So a lot of work that you do is invisible, and invisible work is not often acknowledged. However, the reason or the secret to giving first-class service in British Airways is not because the client has paid for it. They do it for themselves. They do it because it brings more fun and more joy to their job, to their career, to themselves in every flight. And that's the reason they do it. So just remember, the reason to be friendly, to smile more, to be more convivial with parents is not because we're telling you we have to have a good reputation, that's how we get it. It's not about, you know, parents have paid for customer service, they expect it. It's because when you bring more of yourself to your role and that you smile more in your role, you'll enjoy the job more. Is that fair comment? Now, I believe that you're about to go to morning tea. I think that to start the year, would it make sense if you all stood up? Please all stand up. Did you enjoy today? All right, turn around and face your peers and give them all a standing ovation. Yay! Yay! Let's hear it. Thank you.
Just might get you to sit down briefly before we go to morning tea and thank Nina.